to the point. Graham Norton returns as the commentator. Credit: BBC 1, 8 p.m. The annual musical extravaganza takes over BBC One with 3.5 hours of Europop. Portugal makes its debut as hosts at the Altice Arena in Lisbon, where for the first time since 2013, there will not be a big colourful LED screen. The organisers decided against one in favour of a more stripped backstage, a fall in the popularity of novelty acts. Who remembers Russia's singing grannies in 2012 means that there will be a parade of solo singers, including X Factor 2016 runner-up and Finland's entry Sara Aalto, delivering soaring ballads and pop ditties. Graham Norton, marking his 10th stint in the commentator's chair, remains the best reason to watch this kitsch fest. With his dry put-downs, he acknowledges the contest's ridiculousness but clearly finds it fun. If you're still awake at voting time, Mel Giedroyc will deliver the results of the UK's jury from London. Geopolitical voting means that Britain has fared badly of late, and issues such as Brexit could mean that the UK may never win Eurovision again. Even though our entry, the catchy Storm by Sari, is up there, for some, Eurovision is past its sell-by date, but for millions of others, it's a few hours of camp escapism. Power BBC 1, 2 p.m. The Monday host Jungle is the setting as Castleford Tigers take on St Helens in the Challenge Cup. It is a decade since the Saints last lifted the famous trophy, but their good early season form means they will head into this contest with confidence. The Tigers last won the cup back in 1986, and most recently reached the final in 2014, where they lost 23-10 to Leeds Rhinos. Harry Hill's Alien Fun capsule ITV, 7:30 p.m. Though it fails to reach the heights of TV Burp, Harry Hill's comedy panel show still elicits laughs from his surreal sense of fun and unusual guest lineup. This week, Cannon and Ball compete alongside Professor Robert Winston. Britain's Got Talent ITV, 8 p.m. The tear-duct-activating talent show continues to conquer the ratings with cute child performers and nifty variety acts. Judges Amanda Holden and Alicia Dixon are yet to deploy their golden buzzers as the fifth heat gets underway. Britain's Most Historic Towns Channel 4, 8 p.m. Professor Alice Roberts winds up her amiable history series with a jaunt across the Irish Sea to what she calls Britain's most Victorian city, Belfast. With visits to shipyards and textile mills, she shows how the city was transformed from a swampy provincial town to an industrial powerhouse. Gold, 8 p.m. A who's who of leading lights, including Griff Rhys-Jones, Johnny Vegas, Una Stubbs and Nigel Havers, lend their comic weight to this affectionate spoof of TV whodunits. Think Midsummer Murders meets Coach Trip. Carshare's Sean Gibson stars as a tour operator, who is leading a literary coach tour with a murder mystery author, Jones, when the body count starts to rise. It's a gentle old-school carry-on. The Private Life of the Royal Academy BBC 2, 9 p.m. 5 years in the making, and celebrating 250 years of the Academy, this in-depth peek behind the scenes shows how the august institution is modernizing itself while preserving its old rituals. The contributors include Chief Executive Charles Somaray Smith and artists Gilbert VP Salamander, Blood Diamonds BBC 4, 9 p.m. and 9:45 p.m. It looks like carelessness that, after his wife was murdered by the secret society Salamander in the first series, top cop Paul Girardi, Philip Peters, allowed his daughter Sophie, Violet Brakeman, to disappear with former Salamander operative Jamie, Boris Van Severen. But Jamie has incriminating evidence that everyone's after. So Girardi's desperate search for his daughter ups the ante in this double bill of the twisty Belgian thriller. VP BBC 1, 4:45 p.m. This Disney animation is an East meets West adventure with buckets of heart and soul, and is quite possibly Disney at its adorable, huggable, and most visually extravagant best. Hiro Hamada, a 14-year-old orphan living in the city of San Francisco, befriends Baymax, a 10-foot-tall, bright, white inflatable robot invented by his elder brother, who's killed in a mysterious fire at his laboratory. Terminator 2, Judgment Day, 1991, ITV, 10:05 p.m. The special effects still look incredible, and this is a rare example of a sequel being better than its predecessor. Arnold Schwarzenegger gives one of the best performances of his career as the reprogrammed Terminator sent to protect teenager John Connor, Edward Furlong, while the liquid T-1000 robot, Robert Patrick, still astonishes today. My Old Lady, 2014, BBC 2, 10:20 p.m, not Northern Ireland. Kevin Kline plays a broke American who inherits a Parisian flat but comes across a complication in the form of Maggie Smith's 92-year-old who has taken up residence there. There can be great pleasure in seeing egos pricked and lessons learned in this tightly wound chamber piece, but Smith, firing as if she were the Dowager, and Kristen Scott Thomas, as her daughter, are wasted. Sitting Pretty, Donald Glover, right, heads the cast. BBC 2, 10 p.m, Mute, 10:55 p.m, Wales, 11 p.m. As a comedian, writer, director, actor and musician, Donald Glover's star continues to rise. Among other things, he'll be seen as a suitably roguish Lando Calrissian in the Star Wars film Solo, which is released later this month. Ahead of the showing of the second series of his Emmy Award-winning, critically acclaimed comedy on Fox UK in June, BBC 2 is airing the first one. The premise is simple. Glover, a university dropout, returns to Atlanta, where his cousin Alfred, Brian Tyree Henry, aka up-and-coming rapper Paperboy, is on the verge of making it big. Broke and homeless, hopes to piggyback on Paperboy's burgeoning career, but swiftly discovers the road to riches is not so easy. What makes Atlanta such a joy isn't the plot or even the pin-sharp dialogue, but rather Glover's willingness to experiment with tone and form. Homophobia, mental health and the Black Lives Matter movement are all addressed in a show that can spin off into surreal side alleys. One of the best of those comes in this opening episode and involves Paperboy's best friend, Darius, the wonderfully off-kilter Lakeith Stanfield, Vern's father and a tree. Say any more would spoil it. Sarah Hughes' Sky Sports main event, 10 a.m. Given his current form, Rafael Nadal appears to be a shoo-in to win this ATP 1000 event, even before he has struck a ball on the clay courts of the Foro Italico in Rome. But the world #1 and top seed should take nothing for granted here, especially given the prowess of the defending champion Alexander Zverev. The 21-year-old German has been slowly ushering in a new era for tennis, thanks to his lethal serve and beastly backhand, which were used to great effect to defeat Novak Djokovic last year. The out-of-sorts Djokovic will be looking to turn back time, meanwhile, following a big dip in form with a victory here. Formula 1, the Spanish Grand Prix. Sky Sports F1, 2:05 p.m. Having won the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, his first victory in 7 races, Lewis Hamilton is now back where he finished at the end of last season, at the top of the championship. 4 points ahead of his main rival Sebastian Vettel, he heads to Barcelona in bullish mood. After all, he did win at the Circuit de Catalunya last year, staving off constant pressure from Vettel. Premier League football, the final game of the season. Sky Sports main event, 2:55 p.m. With the league title wrapped up weeks ago, the focus is on who secures Champions League qualification. Will Spurs, so dynamic for much of this season, finish in the top 4 by beating Leicester City? Or will Chelsea, travelling up to Newcastle, somehow usurp the North Londoners, the A2? Z of the RHS Chelsea Flower Show. BBC 1, 6 p.m. Jennifer Saunders presents this entertaining and affectionate guide to the history of the Chelsea Flower Show, which is back for its 105th year. She's joined by Gardener's World presenters Arit Anderson and Francis Tophill, who travel the country to talk to some of those exhibiting this year. BBC Young Musician 2018 Grand Final. BBC 4, 7 p.m. It's the moment that fans have been waiting for. Clemency Burton-Hill and Josie Darby present this year's Young Musician Grand Final. Here, the three chosen musicians each perform a full concerto alongside the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra. British Academy Television Awards 2018 BBC One, 8 p.m. Sue Perkins is our guide for the year's biggest TV awards. Among the gongs up for grabs are Best Drama, which sees The Crown up against Line of Duty, Peaky Blinders, and The End of the F***ing World. There is also a nod for the beleaguered presenter Anne McPartlin with Saturday Night Takeaway. At TV, 8 p.m. Britain's most murderous rural idol returns with an episode focused on murder at a Jane Austen reenactment weekend. Thankfully DCI Barnaby, Neil Dudgeon, and DS Winter, Nick Hendricks, are on hand to solve the crime. Burma with Simon Reeve BBC 2, 9 p.m. Wales, 10 p.m. Simon Reeve has an admirable knack for breaking down complex situations, which makes him the perfect presenter for this informative two-part report on Myanmar. In the opener, he explores the plight of the Rohingya refugees. Shish Patrick Melrose Sky Atlantic, 9 p.m. In what is a strong week for drama, it doesn't come better than David Nichols's elegant and devastating adaptation of Edward St. Aubyn's cult novels. Starting with Bad News, the second book in the series will flash back to book 1 next week. Nichols tells the story of the dissolute heroin-addicted Patrick Benedict Cumberbatch, and his hysterical, in all senses of the word, trip to New York to pick up his father's ashes. Cumberbatch, often a slightly mannered performer, is a revelation in the lead role, making the troubled, arrogant Patrick both pitiable and pitiless while effortlessly commanding the screen. It's unmissable. Shish Tomorrowland, A World Beyond, 2015, BBC 2, 6 p.m. Not Me, Scott Wales, 7 p.m. Jetpack Rides, A Gleaming Disneyland Utopia, George Clooney as a grumpy inventor, Brad Bird's The Incredibles, spirited retro-futuristic adventure has a lot going for it, including Hugh Laurie's excellent performance as villain David Nix. But it's also stuck with a screenplay that ties your brain in knots. Best forget the plot and strap in for the fairground ride. Eddie the Eagle, 2016, Channel 4, 9 p.m. Forget Caped Crusaders. Watch a Dexter Fletcher film and you'll really believe a man can fly. This biopic of Michael Eddie Edwards, Taron Egerton, the Olympian ski jumper who in the 80s became an emblem of a very British kind of earnest haplessness, is wonderfully silly. The flying scenes are thrilling and Hugh Jackman, as Eddie's coach, brings a natural effortlessness. Muriel's Wedding, 1994, Channel 5, 10:35 p.m. Toni Collette plays Muriel, a 22-year-old, overweight, Abba-loving misfit from an unhappy home who dreams of her wedding day. But she has never ever been on a date. An old acquaintance, Rhonda, Rachel Griffiths, convinces Muriel to escape their hometown and move to Sydney. This is a classic piece of Australian cinema, a hilarious film with a melancholic undercurrent and a moving account of female friendship. Monday Guilty Conscience. Lee Ingleby and Hermione Norris credit ITV, "I've had 7 years of my life stolen, and now I want justice," says the defiant David Collins, released from jail on a technicality for the murder of his wife at the start of ITV's new crime series. Screened over 4 successive nights, an increasingly common format in the binge-watch era, the drama follows Collins, Lee Ingleby, as he attempts to prove his innocence and punish those who've wronged him. Chief among targets are Collins' wife's hostile sister Alice, Hermione Norris, who's currently raising his 2 children, and his former best friend Tom Elliot Cowan, who scotched Collins' alibi for the night of the killing. The police, meanwhile, are anxious to save face. They charge BDID Kathy Hudson, Angel Colby, to look at the case afresh, but she soon finds worrying inconsistencies in the former investigation. The show hardly breaks new ground, relying on the simple premise of guilty or not to drive the action, neatly swaying our sympathies along the way. but it's compellingly acted nonetheless, with both Ingleby and Norris on fine, emotionally intense form. And knowing the next episode is just a day away adds to the appeal. Toby Dancet Royal Recipes, Wedding Special BBC One, 3:45 p.m. ahead of Saturday's festivities. Michael Burke is joined by chefs Anna Ha and Paul Ainsworth to pour over menus linked to royal romance. First offerings include a pudding made for a love-struck princess. Stephen Hawking Night BBC 4, from 8 p.m. BBC 4 revisits the life of the late physicist Stephen Hawking through its archives. The evening opens with an episode of The Sky at Night from 2016, in which Hawking discusses how developments enhanced his groundbreaking theories on black holes. The search for a new Earth rounds things off, with Hawking exploring the possibility of humans living on other planets. In between is another chance to see the 2004 drama Hawking, starring Benedict Cumberbatch, and an absorbing Horizon documentary from 2005. Heart Transplant, a chance to live. BBC 2, 9 p.m. It's the challenge of turning death into life, says the voiceover in this film following 7 patients waiting for heart transplants at Newcastle's Freeman Hospital. The film shows how a groundbreaking process means that organs can now be sourced from further afield, therefore widening the donor pool. Catching a Killer, A Knock at the Door. Channel 4, 9 p.m. This fascinating series following a real-life murder investigation returns with the case of pensioner Hang Yin Leung. In January 2017, Mrs. Leung was violently attacked by burglars in her Milton Keynes home. Before she could give the police a statement, she became ill and died in hospital 11 days later. Sky Atlantic, 9 p.m. This sprawling sci-fi thriller has upped the goriness for its second series, as the robotic hosts take control of their destiny. In episode 4, Bigwig Delos, Peter Mullen loses patience with the stalling William Jimmy Simpson. Meanwhile, dumped in the wilds, a disoriented Bernard Jeffrey Wright stumbles across a familiar face. TD Myanmar's Killing Fields. Channel 4, 10:20 p.m. In this unflinching documentary, reporter Evan Williams looks at the plight of Myanmar's Rohingya people, who have been subjected to 5 years of persecution at the hands of the country's military. My Life So Far, 1999, AMC, 5:10 p.m. Colin Firth stars as an eccentric inventor living on a Scottish estate during the 20s in this twee drama from Chariots of Fire director Hugh Hudson. It's seen from the perspective of the family's 10-year-old son, whose peaceful family life is shattered when a series of traumatic events, including the arrival of a suitor for his sister and his uncle's alluring French fiancée, Irene Jacob, happen over a tumultuous year. Saving Private Ryan, 1998, Sky 1, 9 p.m. Steven Spielberg's vision of the Normandy invasion won Oscars galore. Starring Tom Hanks and Matt Damon, it chronicles a key squad who have been ordered to track down Private Ryan Damon, so that he can return home to his mother, who is grieving for her 3 other sons. The opening, which depicts the Omaha Beach assault, provides some of the most visceral battle scenes in cinema. Sky Cinema premiere, 9:45 p.m. This unashamedly daft prequel to Annabelle, the 2014 chiller which played with the demonic rag doll from the Conjuring series, is far more effective at giving you the kind of goosebumpy working over the creators are going for. Following the death of their daughter, toymaker Sam, Anthony LaPaglia, and his wife Esther, Miranda Otto, set up an orphanage. Tuesday Wedded Bliss, Catherine Drysdale and Richard Golden credit, Channel 4, 9 p.m. It would take a particularly thin-skinned member of the Windsor clan to take offense at this gleefully idiotic comedy. Back for a one-off episode after 2 excellent series, this special sprinkles just enough grains of truth, or plausibility, at least, to give it a satirical pungency that is reminiscent of peak-era Spitting Image. Here, Prince Harry, Richard Goulding, seems more excited about his stag do than his wedding to Meghan Markle. Catherine Drysdale, the Duchess of Cambridge, Louise Ford, is battling both the machinations of her jealous sibling Pippa, Morgana Robinson, to retake centre stage, and her husband the Duke of Cambridge's Hugh Skinner, attempts to dodge a vasectomy. Meanwhile, Beatrice Ellie White, the pick of a magnificently game-cast, takes time away from her fashion vlog to have a political awakening after a chance encounter with Jeremy Corbyn, Tom Basden, while her mother Fergie, Katie Wicks, is offered a TV reporting gig for the wedding, forcing her to choose between family loyalty and filthy lucre. From dance routines and dream sequences to Windsor Council's tramp catcher, Paul Kay, this is daft and shrewd, but never mean-spirited. Gabriel Tate, Catching Feelings, Netflix, from 12:01 a.m. vaguely reminiscent of a Woody Allen film with its preoccupation with one city, Johannesburg, rather than New York, erotic lead and the lives and loves of its well-heeled citizens. Kegis Olediga's romantic comedy stars Lediga himself as an author whose happy marriage comes unstuck under the influence of his hedonistic tutor. Pangolins, the world's most wanted animal. BBC 2, 8 p.m. The pangolin, the most poached animal in the world, risks becoming endangered. Here, conservationist Maria Diekman travels to China to raise awareness of the impact that the nation's extravagant demand for pangolin products is having. The Split. BBC 1, 9 p.m. An extramarital dating website is hacked, which means that business picks up at both Defoe's and Noble. But as the wedding of Rose, Fiona Button, draws near, it becomes clear that the repercussions of the hack are close to home. Nigeria's Stolen Daughters. BBC 2, 9 p.m. Scotland, 11:15 p.m. In this deeply moving documentary from the This World team, some of the 276 schoolgirls kidnapped by Boko Haram in 2014 speak for the first time about their experiences and their efforts to return to normal life. Sky 1, 9 p.m. The Shadow of Buddy movie landmarks Lethal Weapon and Bad Boys, the loose cannon and the straight arrow cops, the quick-fire banter, the spectacular stunts and bursts of gratuitous violence, enrobes this new comedy thriller written by and starring Noel Clarke and Ashley Walters. The pair play maverick cops prepared to bend a few rules. In the opening episode, they attempt to bring down the killers of an informant with an infant son. Bulletproof lacks in identity, it makes up for in fervent swagger, making it a worthwhile addition to a crowded field. GT Meet the Markles. Channel 4, 10 p.m. Channel 4's pleasingly iconoclastic approach to the royal wedding continues with Amelia de Maldenberg's latterly of hit YouTube series Chicken Shop Date, heading in search of Meghan Markle's family, the first boy she kissed and the sort of life she once lived. GT Night Mail, 1936, B.W. Talking Pictures TV, 7:35 p.m. This inspired film, about a London to Glasgow postal train, was made as a promotional piece by the General Post Office Film Unit during the British documentary film movement and represented a creative peak for the genre. Its most celebrated sequence features music by Benjamin Britten and the narration of W. H. Auden's poem Night Mail over rhythmic montage images of racing train wheels. Film 4, 6:45 p.m. When actor Michael Dorsey transforms himself into Dorothy Michaels in a desperate attempt to get work, complications arise as he falls for a female friend, Jessica Lange, and her father, Charles Durning, falls for him. Although you never quite believe that Dustin Hoffman in drag would convince everyone that he's a woman, it doesn't matter. Tootsie is lots of fun, and it's a sharply observed social satire, too. Hot Shots, 1991, Comedy Central, 9 p.m. Reinventing Charlie Sheen as a deadpan comic actor, this cult satire, from director Jim Abrahams, is a spoof of over-the-top 80s action dramas. It focuses on Topper Harley Sheen, a handsome fighter pilot assigned to the Navy on a mission to destroy Saddam Hussein's nuclear plants. First, however, he must overcome his personal demons. It's puerile, but nevertheless very entertaining. Wednesday, A Changing World, Munro Bergdorf examines gender credit. Channel 4, 10 p.m. Transgender model and activist Munro Bergdorf burst into the spotlight last year when L'Oreal sacked her over controversial Facebook posts. Then the Labour Party appointed her as an LGBT advisor, but she quit after protests ensued. In light of that, this documentary might be seen as an attempt by Bergdorf to rehabilitate her image. It's a personal film focusing on the stages of her transition from male to female. Cameras follow Bergdorf as she undergoes facial feminization surgery and walks the runway at New York Fashion Week, all of which is very empowering, and as she discloses information about incidents of violence and online abuse that she's suffered. A more sensationalist segment sends Bergdorf along to a meeting of radical feminists who are openly hostile to the notion of transgenderism, quite a niche faction, but the scenes allow Bergdorf to clarify her notions of gender, that it's not a binary matter, but more fluid. Bergdorf has a warm message about acceptance, and showcasing her so sympathetically is likely to give her image a much-needed boost as well as educate viewers on the gender quake shaking up society. Vicky Power Europa League Football, Atletico Madrid v Marseille BT Sport 2, 7:45 p.m. So it wasn't to be the fairy tale finish for Arsene Wenger. Despite being the better team over the two legs, his Arsenal side were knocked out by Atletico Madrid. The Spaniards scored on the break through Diego Costa and defended, as ever, with ruthless efficiency. Their opponents are Marseille, who make the short journey to the Groupama Stadium in Lyon. The French side snatched a dramatic extra-time winner to reach the final after surrendering their two-goal first-leg advantage against Red Bull Salzburg. ITV, 8 p.m., UTV, 11:45 p.m. This easily digested series delivers more tales from the terminals. This week, the airport staff struggle with a crush of Russian children heading home from British boarding schools, while a mobile crane driver disrupts airfield action by stopping in the wrong place. The Secret Life of a Zoo, Channel 4, 8 p.m. Cute spider monkeys and an infant capybara provide the off-factor in this trip to Chester Zoo. But not all of the new arrivals are welcomed into the bosom of their family. Newborn naked mole rats get trampled during a vicious jostle for power to be queen. Mystery of the Lost Paintings, Sky Arts, 8 p.m. 6 sunflowers, the second of Vincent van Gogh's 7 sunflower paintings, was destroyed by U.S. bombs during the Second World War. This captivating documentary explains the Japanese influences behind Van Gogh's sunflower artworks, and follows a team of Madrid-based artists and technicians as they attempt to recreate the painting in forensic detail based only on a poor-quality 1921 reproduction. In the countryside, BBC 2, 9 p.m. In this third trip to the farm, the charming rural dating show sees dairy farmer Peter pick a partner, sheep farmer Christine overcome her nerves on 2 dates, and equine vet Heather make a surprising choice of suitor. Channel 4, 9 p.m. It's hard to watch this emergency room documentary without shedding a few tears. Its measured stories of love and loss always deliver a gut punch of emotion. And so it proves in this first episode of a new series, When the Husbands of 2A. VP John Richardson, Ultimate Warrior Dave, 10 p.m. A self-confessed neurotic who suffers from obsessive-compulsive disorder, John Richardson has formulated a chat show around analyzing his fears. These feature on a big display board and include Bitcoin, inconsiderate sneezers and, inexplicably, Mary Berry. Basically, it's an excuse for Richardson and guest comedians Susie Raffel and Josh Whitcomb to rib each other and crack jokes about embarrassing subjects. BP Paper Towns, 2015, Film 4, 9 p.m. Before Fangirl Phenomenon The Fault in Our Stars, showing on Film 4 on Monday at 6:30 p.m. John Green wrote this minor young adult hit which makes for a slightly awkward film. It has a narrator in the pubescent Quentin